Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today is December 15th, 2025, and if you follow NCAA Division I women's volleyball, you you probably know the bracket you filled out is currently confetti.
Just completely shredded.
We have reached the Final Four, but the path to Kansas City was, let's say, less of a road trip and more of a demolition derby.
It was an absolute power vacuum. I mean, we started with 64 teams, and as the regional rounds wrapped up this past weekend, two of the biggest names in the sport.
Two number one seeds.
Two number one seeds were shown the door. This is a massive story, and it is the kind of, chaos that really defines a championship.
Exactly. So forget the conventional wisdom. Our goal in this deep dive is to get past the scores and dive into the why and the how. We are distilling the crucial results from the regionals, zeroing in on the narratives from these historic upsets.
And then previewing the matchups.
And then we're giving you the strategic blueprint for the 4 teams left standing.
And look, if you're just catching up, this tournament is already defined by the overthrow of power. We are talking about legendary programs. Nebraska, a team that came into the regionals completely undefeated.
Perfect season on the line.
And Texas, the perennial title favorite, both eliminated. We need to look at the teams who pulled off the coups and, why they were so prepared to do it.
Okay, before we get into the carnage, let's just quickly set the scene. 64 teams started, right?
Yep. 31 conference champs, 33 at-large bids.
That field was selected back on November 30th. And the early rounds, December 4th through the 6th, actually felt pretty standard.
They did. For a minute there, it really looked like chalk. Most of the top seeds, Pittsburgh, Kentucky, Texas, Nebraska, they all got to host those initial rounds.
And for a week, it looked like business as usual. Kentucky specifically was terrifyingly efficient.
Oh, they were clinical.
Clinical. As the SEC champion and a Nor 1 seed, they only dropped one single set in their entire run up to the Elite Eight.
And that was against UCLA.
Against UCLA in the round of 32. They swept Wofford, then later swept Cal Poly and Creighton to lock in their spot without any drama. They just demonstrated complete control.
But that control was, it was an anomaly this year. If Kentucky was clinical, the rest of the regional finals were an absolute slaughterhouse for tradition.
Yeah.
The moment the tournament elevated from the Sweet 16 to the Elite Eight, the whole foundation just shifted.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because that transition, that's where the chaos truly began, and it completely reshaped the bracket. The defining theme of this entire 2025 tournament is the toppling of the number 1 seeds.
And you have to start with fall of the undefeated. Nebraska came into this tournament with a huge target on its back, 0 losses, and they were taken down by a number 3 seed.
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M.
And A&M, the Aggies, had a tough path just to get there. I mean, I had to take down a number 2 seed, Louisville, and then number 6 TCU.
They were battle-tested.
Right. But beating an undefeated Nebraska program for their first ever Final Four berth, that is the definition of a Cinderella moment, even for a high seed.
And what's so fascinating here is how they did it. This wasn't a fluke. They beat Nebraska in a thrilling, high-stakes 5-set match on December 14th.
It went the distance.
It did. And if you look at the strategy, A&M completely, and I mean completely, dominated at the net. They held Nebraska's star outside hitter to her lowest efficiency of the entire season.
Wow. So it was pure defense shutting down the engine of Nebraska's offense. A&M just refused to let the match speed up.
Exactly. They wouldn't let it become a scoring fest. Nebraska relies on that rapid-fire offense, high-volume hitting. But A&M's blocking scheme and their back row defense forced errors. It kept Nebraska out of system late in sets 4 and 5. And you saw that aggression in that quote after the win.
Oh, yeah. We're the grittiest team in the country.
Right. That grit translated directly into strategic disruption.
That confidence is absolutely earned when you survive a 5-set war against perfection.
Yeah.
And Texas A&M wasn't the only number 3 seed playing the role of bracket assassin.
Not even close. Not even on the same night. Out in the Austin Regional, we saw Wisconsin, also a number 3 seed, take down the traditional heavyweight number 1 Texas.
Also on December 14th. And this wasn't just a win for Wisconsin. This felt like calculated revenge.
It did.
Texas had handed the Badgers one of their 4 regular season losses. So to go into the Elite Eight, beat the number 1 seed, and take that match 3-1, that's not just an upset. It's a statement about where the power resides in 2025.
And tactically, Wisconsin just showed incredible maturity. They were not afraid of that moment. You saw Wisconsin's offensive distribution was just so much more varied than Texas expected.
Right.
Texas was loading up on the outside hitters, but Wisconsin was relentless with their middle attack. They were drawing the blockers out, opening up the pins later in the match.
So they dictated the tempo.
Completely.
Yeah.
And that ability to vary the attack just neutralized Texas's powerful defense.
Okay, so just to recap the carnage before we head to Kansas City. Regional finals saw undefeated Nebraska fall to Texas A&M in 5, and the powerhouse Texas falls to Wisconsin 3-1. That means 2 massive historical #1 seeds were eliminated by #3 seeds. That leaves us with only 2 #1s standing.
Which brings us to our main event this Thursday, December 18th, live from the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. And the focus shifts entirely from how they got there to, well, who can win it all?
Let's dive into that first matchup. We have #1 Pittsburgh, who showed incredible consistency to stay alive.
They did.
And they're taking on the history-making #3 Texas A&M Aggies. That match is slated for 6:30 p.m. ET.
And Pitt is, they're the #1 overall seed in their regional. They've been a model of consistent national success over the last few years.
Right.
They earned their spot by navigating their own, regional gauntlet. They beat both #4 Minnesota and #3 Purdue. They avoided the chaos by just being superior.
So you have Pittsburgh, the established strategic contender, whose strength is stability, squaring off against Texas A&M, the historic underdog, whose strength is this, unpredictable momentum and pure grit.
Yeah.
What is the key strategic battle here?
It's the front line. It has to be. Pitt has phenomenal pin-hitting efficiency. But A&M, like we just said, is defined by its ability to block and disrupt. So if A&M can continue to force Pitt's hitters into low-percentage shots, that momentum might just carry them. But Pitt has not faced a team running this hot yet.
That's a good point.
They are used to controlling the rhythm of the game, and A&M is going to try to turn it into a street fight.
That match is drama. But the second semifinal might be, nuclear. It's pairing the other surviving #1 seed, Kentucky, against the other bracket assassin, Wisconsin.
Yeah, that was at 9 p.m. ET.
The nightcap.
And Kentucky is the other #1 seed still standing. They are the dominant SEC champion who just swept their way through the regional.
Untouched, basically.
Right. They also enter with a distinct advantage, at least in terms of recent history, against their old SEC rival, Texas, who they beat twice this season. They come in rested and clinical.
And Wisconsin, of course, is the upset machine coming off that massive statement win against Texas. This matchup feels incredibly fraught because while Kentucky has the consistency, Wisconsin has the, strategic edge of having just conquered a giant.
And the tactical analysis here is Kentucky's defense versus Wisconsin's sophisticated attack. I mean, Kentucky is known for its scrappy, relentless floor defense that just extends rallies forever.
They weigh you down.
They do. Wisconsin, though, showed against Texas that their distribution system is nearly impossible to predict. It's going to come down to whether Kentucky's back row can dig up balls coming from everywhere, or if Wisconsin's high-variance offense just grinds them down.
But here's where we inject a thread of, cross-sport history that just makes this match so much juicier for Big Blue Nation. You have to rewind almost 10 years.
Oh, I know where you're going.
The 2015 men's basketball Final Four.
The infamous memory.
For Kentucky fans, it was devastating. Wisconsin was the team that ended Kentucky men's basketball's perfect 38-3 season that year. It was arguably one of the biggest upsets in college basketball history.
Oh, absolutely.
And now, 10 years later, Kentucky volleyball has a chance to, and this is in their own coach's words, write a different ending against the Badgers on the same stage, the Final Four.
That is such a powerful, emotional, and historical thread driving this volleyball match. You can bet every Kentucky fan remembers 2015, and that narrative, it adds immense pressure and emotion to the players, even if it is a different sport.
And just to look ahead, the potential championship matchup also has these revenge arcs built in. Pittsburgh actually handed Kentucky one of its regular season losses.
Right.
So regardless of who advances this Thursday, there is history, there's motivation, there's strategic contrast everywhere we look this weekend.
And the winners of those two semifinals, they face off on Sunday, December 21st, 3:30 p.m. ET on ABC for the whole thing.
For the national championship.
Yeah. And to really appreciate the scale of these upsets and to look ahead at what this means for the sport, I think we need to place these four teams into the broader context of divisional volleyball history.
It's vital. Because when people talk about DI volleyball dynasties, they're usually talking about four names, right?
Penn State, Stanford, Nebraska, and Texas.
Right. They hold the overwhelming majority of titles since the championship began back in 1981. They literally set the standard for dominance.
And that's what makes the elimination of Nebraska and Texas so significant this year. It's not just two good teams losing, it's two pillars of the sport being shaken by another three seeds. This signals a kind of a seismic shift in national competitiveness that goes beyond just a single game.
And we've seen this trend accelerating recently, haven't we?
Sure.
For decades, it felt like those four programs just had a lock on the championship trophy.
A total lock.
But if you look at the last five champions from 2020 through 2024, it paints a picture of modern parity.
It certainly does. We saw Kentucky win in 2020, then Wisconsin took it in 2021. Texas went back-to-back in 22 and 23, and then Penn State was the most recent champion in 2024. All four of our current Final Four teams are part of this recent championship discussion.
It's interesting because 4 years ago, these teams didn't all feel like they were in the same tier. What do you think changed in the last 5 years that elevated this group and made the traditional powerhouses so vulnerable? Is it coaching? Recruiting?
I think it's a combination of things, but parity is absolutely the key word. First, you have coaching stability at places like Pittsburgh and Kentucky that has just built sustainable programs.
Right.
Secondly, the emergence of the transfer portal allows these teams, even the number 3 seeds, to quickly fill specific roster holes with high-caliber talent that they might not have been able to get 5 years ago.
That makes perfect sense. So a top-tier program like Nebraska might have historically been able to weather a few key injuries, but now a program like Texas A&M can acquire the exact defensive specialist or setter they need to immediately compete at a Final Four level.
Yeah, the margin for error shrinking for everyone. Exactly. When you look at Nebraska and Texas this year, they weren't weak teams. They just ran into teams that were strategically focused, highly motivated, and had the talent to capitalize on small mistakes. That ability to punch back when you're facing pressure is what defines modern DI volleyball.
And that modern volatility sets up this Final Four just beautifully. We have two established powers, Pitt and Kentucky, who succeeded through consistency and discipline.
Running headlong into two teams.
Texas A&M and Wisconsin, who fought their way through the bracket on pure momentum, grit, and timely tactical execution.
It's the perfect blend of consistency versus chaos. And you can't forget that cross-sport historical connection between Kentucky and Wisconsin adds an element of legacy and emotion we rarely see. It's going to be a captivating week.
It truly will be must-watch volleyball this week in Kansas City.
And this whole discussion of upsets, especially the fall of Nebraska and Texas, it raises an important question for you, the listener, to mull over as you watch this week. When you look at programs that have historically defined the sport, Nebraska, Texas, Stanford, all eliminated, what makes the 2025 results indicative of a fundamental rising tide of national competitiveness across the NCAA? Or are we just witnessing a single, highly unusual, high-variance year in the bracket? And if these trends continue, what does the championship bracket even look like 5 years from now?